Alright guys, as you can tell I'm solo backpacking here, and one thing I wanted to mention is a lot of people ask me, what do you take for gear when you're by yourself? Well, you can see back here I've got just a small 30-liter pack, and I do take a tent. I used to not take a tent and then ran into some really creepy situations, and now I do. And I take a little two-person tent. It's a Eureka Sun River 2, and the most important thing to me when I'm backpacking by myself is safety, because I really can't make a phone call out here, so I try to use all precautions, and a tent is definitely one of those things that I take. I also, as you can see down here, I take my I've got a Car CM45 with 5 rounds in it, and it's not so much for like if I run into people or anything, but if I'm laying in the tent and a bear comes near the tent, I'm gonna scare him by firing rounds at the ground. And I've never really needed to, but I've got it just in case. And I'm not gonna take any chances when I'm by myself, because the stupidest things can cause you to get trapped out here. Like, if you roll your ankle, or if a bear comes into camp and happens to break your leg, whatever, all these hypothetical things. And I also, as you can see here, I take a GPS on every trip. This is my Garmin Rhino 650T, and it's got full topo of the area that I'm at. And at home before trips, I mark all my waypoints, and I think that that's very important so that I know exactly where I'm going. And I usually, give my itinerary to my buddy that is familiar with this area. That way, if he doesn't hear from me within the range of time that I specify when I'll be out, then he knows where I'll be. And it's got a walkie-talkie on it, so he knows what channel I'll be on. If I'm if I'm hurt or something, he'll be up here on the same channel trying to get in touch with me. And with that, I always try to bring plenty of batteries, and that way that I've pretty much covered all the bases of a rescue or something. And another thing about safety is taking a lot of light, because it's pretty dark out here. As you can see, this is a really bright light. It's the light I use for work. It's a Streamlight Strion. I think it's 500 lumens, and it comes with rechargeable batteries. So I've got a couple of those with me. And other than that, I pack pretty light. I've got one of the MSR Wind Pro stoves. I've got an inline Sawyer squeeze on my Camelback, and just my food. I'm gonna hang a bear bag, pretty much everything essential to be out here by myself for a couple days. So if you're gonna hike alone, just think before you get out in the woods. Tell people where you're going. Make sure you have everything needed to secure your food in a tree away from animals, and have a plan of escape if things turn south. Because after all these years of backpacking, I can definitely say things have gone south quite a few times. So think before you hike. Thanks. Hey guys, Connor here. I'm going to continue with this Q&A video. I've got my phone with me here, so we're going to follow up with some of these questions you guys have asked me. First up, it's from Mike Tolbert. It says, how long have you been hiking in Linville Gorge, and what's your favorite trail? Well, I've been hiking in Linville Gorge since 2007, sometime in March. I think it was the first week in March in 2007 was my first trip here, and so that's about almost 10 years now. And I would have to say that my favorite trail is going to be the Short Off Trail from Wolf Pit Road. And of course, that's pretty much everyone's, a lot of people's favorite trail, because it takes you to some of the best views in the park and some of the most awesome, cliff shots, and some places where you can do a little bit of bouldering and stuff like that, and also there's some really good rock climbing up there. And, you know, there's campsites, there's a water source. I mean, it's the best place to take someone for their first trip here, because the experience is monumental and it's not that brutal of a hike. And Jessica B, she says, what's the scariest thing that's ever happened to you while backpacking? Well, you know, I don't know if it's just me or what, but I've had maybe 1 or 2 bear encounters in the last 13, 14 years. So, you know, I think the scariest thing that I've ever had happen backpacking would be, I had a friend who broke a bone in his foot when we were way up Raven Fork in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, and we were so far from the car that I was scared that we weren't going to make it out, and that we would have to call, you know, like a helicopter or something to get us out. But we ended up, you know, I helped him get out of there with all the gear, and it took something like 10 hours to go 4 or 5 miles. I mean, it was insane. It was sun up to sundown, dragging this dude out to get him to the hospital. Luckily, he wasn't bleeding. That would have made it a whole lot worse. And, let's see here. James R. says, where's your favorite campsite in the gorge? Now, I kind of touched on this a little bit already. I like going up Wolf Pit Road, where there's an ascent called Dopey Duck, which is right by the water pipe, and that spot right there, just past the water pipe, you can kind of like veer off to the left and take a little teeny trail to this campsite it's set up to where the fire pit is, I don't know, maybe 20 feet from the edge of the cliff, and then the camping area is probably 40 feet back, but you can walk around the fire pit and go out and stand. You can stand on the edge of this cliff, I kid you not, and you can look up and down. I mean, you can see probably 75% of the gorge, all the way past Hawksbill. And you can look down and you can see, you know, Lake James and everything like that. And it's kind of cool to stand out there at night. You can see all the little fires down along the Linville Gorge River Trail and stuff. And it's just one of my favorites, because I've taken so many people there that have never been backpacking and have had such a unique experience, versus going somewhere like Pinchin or down Connolly Cove, where there's really not much of a view, you know, where you're camping and stuff. I mean, there's river, but not much for lookout, and you know, there's not so much of things to do if you're doing kind of an overnighter with a little bit of hiking on the second day. And let's see, Stephen K writes in and says, what is the, let's see here, what does that say? What's the worst thing that has happened to you while solo backpacking? Alright, I've been doing solo trips for about 5 or 6 years now, and I can tell you that you never get used to being, or I never get used to being on a trip by myself. Like, I never get really comfortable with my surroundings. You know, I was eating dinner 10 minutes ago, and it seemed like, you know, I'm listening to every twig snap and the wind and stuff. It really, I've probably done between 75 and 100 nights solo by myself, and have never really felt like, you know, like adjusted to the woods. You know, I'm always looking around and kind of listening for things, and I'm the kind of person, I'm really quiet, and you know, one other thing that I noticed is that this is against what every book tells you, is I set my bear bag really, really close to my tent. And I do that because if something is coming into camp, I want it to be close to my tent so I can scare it off, instead of it being, you know, a little distance away and linger for a good portion of the night, you know. I just want to get it here so it can wake me up, so I can do what I need to do to scare off whatever it is, whether it be a coyote, bear, you know, raccoon, you know, all kinds of different things that could come into camp. And with the bear bag right below my tent, I also think that it deters predators and, you know, other animals from even coming close. Like, they may, you know, I've had a few trips where something has come up near my tent, maybe done a lap around the tent and then left. And I think it's because, you know, my food bag is not hung right over top of my tent tonight, but it's definitely within 20 feet of my tent. And it's probably 15 feet off the ground, so, you know, there's no way anything could ever get to it, but I keep it close to my tent just so I can hear what's going on. And let's see what the next question is here. Alex writes, do you ever get lonely going backpacking by yourself, or wish you had a friend to go with? Well, you know, I've been on 2 trips backpacking with friends that were very experienced that have gotten hurt on me, and it was on situations where we were really far from the car. You know, one time I had a friend rolled his ankle when we were hiking in the rain on the Art Love Trail. He rolled his ankle when we were up near the Blue Ridge Parkway, and our car was parked at the Pisgah Ranger Station, and we ended up having to flag someone down so that we could ride in the back of his truck back to the car, and that was an all-day ordeal. And then when my buddy broke his foot, that was another all-day ordeal. So, you know, when I pick to do the craziest trips that I'm doing out of the year, I'll usually go by myself because the liability is a lot lower in terms of, you know, there's less people with me, so there's less people that can get hurt. I mean, that kind of sounds stupid, but my buddy Windtalker always has my itinerary of where I'm at. He knows this area very well, and he has the GPS coordinates of where I'm staying and everything, and he knows that if I don't call him at a certain time on my ride home, you know, when I'm supposed to be, quote-unquote, the window of when I'm heading out, if I don't call him, he knows that, you know, by nightfall it's time to start making some phone calls to the game warden or rangers or whoever he can get a hold of. And the loneliness part, I don't so much get lonely as in no one to talk to, but it's like sometimes cool things happen. Like, I'll be fishing or something, and I'll be like, man, I really wish somebody was here to see this fish or see how that, you know, view looks, or this certain, you know, there's all kinds of little things that I sort of wish, and that's one reason why I've started doing videos, is so that I can, you know, upload them to my YouTube channel and show them to everyone in my family, or, you know, siblings, friends that can't make it or that don't have the financial means to, you know, afford to go on trips and stuff. And I feel that since I'm blessed with the time and resources to do stuff like this, that I want to share it with people. And I think that's 5 questions. That's all I'm going to do for now, but we might see what else we can talk about on this trip and maybe make this Q&A more in depth. Thanks.